Hello, this is Gal7, and a lot of people ask why I always use the old version of the editor rather than the newest ones. And that is because, well, the old editor seems a lot less bug-free, and it gets things done, but there are a couple advantages to the new editor, I can't deny that, but there are also things that I don't like and some things that are just kind of buggy. So I guess we should just get into that. So what you're going to need is the ROM as usual and the newest version of Super Mario 64 DS. And for once in the description, I'll actually provide a link to the most recent version. But anyways, let's take a look about this. So I'm going to open the hello world.nds. And it says we need to make a backup of it. I'm just going to hit no. So once it patches, there's something about the new editor that's different from the old one, and that is if I try to use the old one, and if I'm using the old editor and trying to open hello world.nds, it'll say it's been patched by a more recent and it can't be opened by this version. So, unfortunately, if you have the new version, you have to stay with the new one. You can open an old ROM with the new one, but you can't go backwards. So you can only go to a newer version. So once you stick with the newer editor, you can't go back down. Anyways, let's take I'm not going to show actual hacking stuff. I'm just going to get into the different layouts and different features and stuff. So, first of all, the help button, blah, blah, blah. Or the question. And in the options here, we have the update object database, of course, and the editor settings. And basically, you can do whatever you want here. And in the More tab, we can dump all overlays, add the patches, the MISC patches, or we can decompress overlays within the game. We can do the hex dump to binary file, which you're not going to have to worry about unless you use no GBA for ASM hacking. Then there's the dump object info stuff. And so it's basically the same. ASM hacking, we have these things now, and unless you do ASM hacking, which I don't touch at all, you shouldn't have to worry about this, so I don't worry about it, and unless you do ASM hacking, you're not going to have to worry about it either. And the file system is basically the same, with all the LZ decompresses with header, force, and not forced, and extract, replace. Basically, it's the same stuff as always. And the ARM9 overlays, yeah, nothing different here. But there's nothing to change there anyways. So, here's where things get different. One of them being in the map. So, I'm not going to get into this yet. But if we look here, in the 3D model, we can no longer import other model or export other models. And the reason why you can't do that is because they said instead of having to go in your level editor here and do it, they actually added it to the model and collision map importer. And so you can load an internal model to replace. So, like, see, I can go here. I can go, like, to the VR box or whatever. And, yeah. And while they may have the materials editor, like, you can edit the textures here, although there's a better way to import the textures, which I'll show you. I'm going to go into this model importer later. But let's take a look at some of the tools. First of all, the sound browser. In my current version, it doesn't work, but maybe it will when there's a newer release. And we also have the text editor, as always. Just hit English and then, yay, you can edit your text. Yeah. And then we have the text. Here's where, like, in some tutorials, like for the backgrounds, I would have to go in the 3D model, and you would have to import other model, go to the BMD thing, texture. And now this cuts a lot of that steps out, and it makes it a lot easier. You just hit this, and then you just look for the model you want, say the VR box, like 3.bmd or whatever. And there, you have the model right here, and you can just replace your BMDs as whenever you want, however you want. And there's the model animation editor. I don't know if it's less glitchy or the same. I can't exactly tell you how it's different or not. And I haven't really talked about it much in a tutorial yet. But keep in mind, I will most likely make a tutorial on it. If this thing, I kind of know how it works, and I kind of don't know how it works. So, as of now, that is in the making of this video. Of course, all these can change later. But yeah, if you're an animator, this will be used, or model hacking. That will be useful. And there's the collision map editor, where you can load the external model, or you can go in your stage, Bomb-Hay, or Bomb-Hay is Bomb on Battlefield here. And I'll open the KCL. And you can see it has a lot more colorful colors, which is a good thing when it comes to KCL collisions. And now with the KCL things, you can just, well, you may click on things that may be different. A cool thing is you can go in and see the actual material names. Well, not the names, but you can actually assign the types this way. And if you want the old collision selector here, you just hit planes and you can edit them one by one manually. And this is the target of what you want to replace. And so basically what you would do here is you would, like, say I want to just reset everyone but material 1 to 1. I can just go assign. Now everything except material 1 over here. As we can see here, this is 0 and this is 1. And now material 1 has the collisions applied. But if I were to X out of this, it would not exactly work correctly. So let me just import it. No, sorry. You need to actually navigate to the Bomb-Hay map and then hit import collision map. And then it should import successfully. And if I go back in the KCL editor, and I'll load the internal model. Data, stage, Bomb-Hay map, KCL. We now have the edited KCL that I did. And you can see here that the planes, this is 1 and this is 0, just like I told it to. And of course you can set the planes manually, but just remember that KCL, you just need to edit the... Now, of course, you don't need to find the name of every model. There's an easier method if you just want to replace. You can just hit the Edit Collision Map button, and it'll already come with the target and the planes preset. Except the materials here are only limited to 2 now, but oh well. Basically, you can re-import the original model and reassign your collisions that way. So that's a cool thing. Just make sure your collision map and model are of the same scale, otherwise you can run into some problems. And export, of course, you can export the collision model as like a 3D model. So this collision map importer is a lot less glitchy than in the version I use. Now, well, you can't actually patch the differences. I can tell you a way around that. Say I just made my changes to the KCL now. I can actually use the file system to export the files. And I can still have it work that way. So in a sense, you can use the new editor to edit your ROM. I would just make a copy of it though, and then extract the files that are edited, and then you can just import that in your original ROM and be all good. Or at least I think you should be able to. And we talked about the KCL and the model collision, and the model and map importer is kind of a new thing here. So if I just load, say, I'm just going to load an internal model for now. I'm just going to do the Bombay map as I always do, which will be this one. And you can see we have the original model here. And basically, there's a lot of differences. If you touch the scale here, I don't know if it affects this one here. Let me see here. So if I set the scale to 2 to be twice as big, or to make it like really extreme, like 5. Yeah, you must adjust the scale to 5 here too. So make sure you adjust the scale for both, which is kind of annoying. And you could do the target here, and of course the target will automatically be filled out for you if you do it by doing this. See, the target is already filled out for you, but you'll have to find the target manually like this if you want to do it manually. And it's usually the same stuff here. You have the vertically flipping all textures, except you usually don't have to worry about this unless you're doing the series kind of model, importing like models or whatever. And we have the material names. And like in the in the texture animation tutorial, I stress that you must find the material names, and basically you can find them in the original models. And the textures, yeah, these are great. You can replace them, rename them. There's basically a lot more stuff you can do. And what about the collisions? Like, say I want this to have a collision of 1 and the grass of like 2 or something. And that's in the KCL settings now, and you see all the material names and the collision types. Yeah, basically the same thing. And you must set the target here too. And when import, you can do the model and collision map. Just make sure. I recommend doing the model and collision map, so you have that being done. And now I can import the model and collision map, but I'm just not going to do that. You can export the current model you're viewing at too. So basically we have more features for that. And let me go into some other things now, such as the main viewer. And the camera controls are still the same, but CLPS is one of the things that changed very differently. Instead of having presets, you have to kind of guess here. Basically, the texture is, you just play around with it. Say I just add 24 here. And you can see I have the normal camera. If I set the texture to 1, it's a path textured. If I set it to 2, it's a grassy surface. So you just kind of play around, and then water defining grassy surface. And basically set this to 1 if it's water. View ID, usually you want this at 0. Or no, sorry, you want it with a normal camera. Traction, that's basically how Mario sticks to the surface. Camera type, normal, it doesn't, behavior, camera through, toxic. Basically, you just play around with these. This should usually be 255, and I don't know what some of these are. You just have to keep playing around with it. And this description here should give you a pretty accurate thing here. And you still have the copy CLPS2, add, remove, that kind of stuff. And so the mini-map is pretty much the same. Nothing different here. Only get into what's different. You can also see we can adjust the number of areas in a level, the minimum number, which may or may not be, which is useful if you have, like, say, like a ghost mansion, something or whatever, or places that change minimap. But overall, you shouldn't have to deal with it too much. And basic object settings here, if you go, you have the parameters and stuff. And basically, yeah. Now, a lot of things are same here. Just that doesn't really tell you much. It also tells you stuff about the teleports and all that. But
Michael, are you going to the fire?
anyways, you can see we already have some other things here. The unknown type still hasn't changed, but this restriction plane, I honestly don't know what it does. Distance from Oregon. I couldn't tell you what that does if I want to. I'm clueless. In the grid, I'm pretty sure. I don't know what this does either, honestly. Maybe they're just tools, or what if I just put in 1 for this or whatever? Does that do anything? That seemed to move stuff. That. Oh, does this move the map? I don't know. I honestly don't know what that does. So you just kind of have to play with that, I guess. Basically, if you want to see the new features, you just kind of have to keep on playing around with it. For the most part, things are the same. And this is good for this new update is good for things like texture editing and model editing. But there's there's a couple reasons why I just don't like this version. One of them is there may be some collision importing in KCL bugs, or it might have been an older version than this I was using. I don't know for sure. And another is moving objects. If you use the mouse wheel, it doesn't seem to work for me. It may work for you if you're using a different version, but mouse wheel just doesn't work for me. I don't know why. And that's really annoying when placing objects, considering that I use the mouse wheel to make things go closer and backwards, and the fact that I can't do that is just really annoying, honestly. So yeah, everything else here is the same, and I hope you guys liked the overview of this tutorial on the new editor.